Don't be too proud of the technical terror you have constructed. When a prominent member of the dark side had to say this about the Death Star, then you know there is no love lost there. Why would Darth Vader refer to the Death Star, a superweapon that could literally help the dark side achieve the dominance it craved this way? Welcome to Star Wars Deconstructed, acolytes of the galaxy and students of the Force. Whether you're a Jedi, Sith, or somewhere in between, join us as we venture deep into the Star Wars galaxy, exploring the reasons why the dark side hated the Death Star. For something that has the ability to deliver the dominance it craved, the dark side really did not show any sign of love or likeness for the Death Star. It did not even help that both parties shared the same initial. We thought that should at least count for something. When Darth Vader told Tarkin and other Imperial officers that they should not be proud of the mechanical monstrosity they built, it was clear that Darth Vader and other practitioners of the dark side did not spare any love for the most destructive superweapon ever to exist in the Star Wars universe. But why? Why the hate? Here are 3 shocking reasons, there are more, that the dark side did not share any likeness with the Death Star. One of the main reasons why the dark side hated the Death Star was that it stole their thunder. Literally. The dark side thrives on instilling fear, spreading chaos, and exerting control over the galaxy. However, with the Death Star's destructive power, the Sith and other dark side users found themselves overshadowed. Suddenly, the Death Star became the symbol of fear and power, stealing the spotlight from individual Sith Lords and their personal displays of cruelty. It was like having an overachieving little brother who constantly outshines you at every family gathering. Except, this brother is not exactly little, and he's outshining you in destroying stuff. Building and maintaining the Death Star was an enormous drain on the resources of the Galactic Empire. Countless credits, materials, and manpower were devoted to its construction, leaving fewer resources available for other dark-side projects and initiatives. Sith Lords and other dark-side users who sought to amass personal power and further their own agendas found their ambitions curtailed due to the overwhelming focus on the Death Star. It's hard to conquer the galaxy when all your resources are being sucked into a giant moon-sized space station. The dark side thrives on exerting control and bending others to its will. The Death Star, however, inspired fear but not necessarily provide the level of control the Sith desired. Fear alone does not equate to true dominance and manipulation. Sith Lords prefer to manipulate through subtle means, using their cunning and power to control individuals and systems. The Death Star's sheer destructive force was seen as a blunt instrument, lacking the finesse and subtlety that the Sith typically employed. It was like trying to open a locked door with a wrecking ball when you really wanted to pick the lock. Doesn't really seem smart, right? Darth Vader and Sidious also alluded to the power of fear and destruction that the Death Star has instilled instead of power of control. Vader, after berating Tarkin for the construction of the Death Star, mentioned that the ability to destroy a planet or even a whole system, referring to the power of the Death Star, is insignificant next to the power of the Force. Sidious also told Vader that he intends not to rule over an empire of the dead, which is a subtle jab at how the Death Star would probably leave everyone dead instead of subduing them into control. Again, wrecking balls and picking locks. So basically, the dark side despised the Death Star because it stole their spotlight, drained resources away from their personal ambitions, and represented a crude symbol of fear rather than the nuanced control they desired. But there were more reasons why the Death Star wasn't loved that much by the dark side. Another reason is its strategic vulnerability. As powerful and destructive as the Death Star is, it has been destroyed numerous times in the Star Wars universe. The first time was in the first original Star Wars movies in 1977, when the Death Star 1 was destroyed by the Rebel Alliance. The Death Star 1 was a colossal space station and superweapon. It was really a technological marvel constructed by the Galactic Empire and designed with the intention of instilling fear and exerting control over the galaxy, possessing incredibly destructive power, capable of obliterating entire planets with a single concentrated blast from its planet-destroying super laser. Its immense size allowed it to house numerous personnel, fighters, and support systems. It served as a central plot point in the 1977 movie, with the Rebel Alliance seeking to destroy it before it could be used to eliminate their base and further solidify the Empire's control over the galaxy. Despite its imposing presence, the Death Star was eventually destroyed in a daring mission led by the Rebel Alliance. A small group of Rebel fighters managed to exploit a critical weakness, an exhaust port that led directly to the station's main reactor, and launched a successful attack that caused a chain reaction, resulting in its destruction. And that was not the only time it got destroyed. A second Death Star, known as the Death Star 2, was introduced in the 1983 Return of the Jedi. This upgraded version was still under construction and located near the forest moon of Endor. It became the focal point of a decisive battle between the Rebel Alliance and the Galactic Empire. Ultimately, the Rebel Alliance, with the help of the Ewoks and the redeemed Darth Vader, managed to destroy the Death Star 2 and bring down the downfall of Emperor Palpatine. So you see, the Death Star may be imposing and destructive, but it's not undestroyable, and this is one of the reasons why the dark side saw it as a strategic vulnerability, and we don't blame them. That's not to say that we roll with the dark side though. If you have a super weapon that can be destroyed, that doesn't really provide the needed control and gulps a lot of resources, we bet you would not be too hyped about it too. Plus, there's also a standing conspiracy that the Force itself does not want the existence of a super weapon in the galaxy. While we will probably do another video to cover this, let's give a tidbit on why we believe that this conspiracy might be true. Why is it that every time a superweapon is discovered in the galaxy, it gets destroyed very soon? Also, do you remember the statement by Luke Skywalker about how he might have fired the shot that destroyed the Death Star, but the Force already wanted to purge the galaxy of the weapon as it was an embodiment of everything that was wrong with the dark side? Well, we'll leave you to ponder on that. Throughout the Star Wars franchise, the dark side and its practitioners managed to demonstrate disdain or frustration towards the Death Star. While not explicitly portrayed in the film, some expanded universe sources and alternative interpretations offer insights into this dynamic. However, it's important to note that these interpretations may not be universally accepted within the Star Wars canon. Here are a couple examples. In some interpretations, Darth Vader, the Sith Lord and right-hand man of Emperor Palpatine, exhibits a sense of frustration towards the Death Star. Vader is depicted as a powerful and ambitious individual who seeks to establish his dominance within the dark side hierarchy. The Death Star, with its immense power and the Emperor's focus on its construction, could be seen as diverting attention and resources away from Vader's personal ambitions. This notion suggests that Vader may have resented the Death Star for hindering his own rise to power and overshadowing his abilities as a Sith Lord. According to the Sith philosophy, there should only be two Sith at any given time, the Master and the Apprentice. This rule of two ensures the concentrated power of the dark side and prevents internal conflict. The Death Star, as a symbol of the Emperor's authority and control, could be perceived as a violation of this philosophy. Sith Lords typically strive for personal power and dominance, and the existence of the Death Star, which elevated the Emperor to a position of immense power, may have been viewed by some Sith as an affront to the principles of the dark side and a dilution of their individual influence. So, next time you think about the dark side's hatred for the Death Star, remember that even evil has its reasons for being jealous and frustrated. This brings us to the end of the video. If you enjoyed this video, like it, subscribe, and watch the next one.